When I was a kid, I really thought I was going to be a professional athlete. I played quarterback and that was my dream until I realized that I was the backup quarterback on my middle school's B team. I was not good at football. I was 5'2". Coaches told me to stop playing, and so I moved on with my life. Fast forward to college, and I was a marching band kid. That was my life, and I had a great time. I had a blast. But in my first semester of college, I had big time FOMO, the fear of missing out. I was basically on a full ride scholarship through the music department, the Alumni Association, Pell Grants, but I didn't have any extra money to do all the fun stuff I saw my friends doing, buying new clothes, going to nice dinners, going to Topgolf every weekend. And so my second semester, I started taking out student loans, not to pay for school, but to pay for the lifestyle that I saw my friends living. Little did I know, most people around me didn't have much money and they were living off student loans as well. We just never really talked about money that way. But fast forward to my senior year, my girlfriend at the time, Shelby, she's now my wife, we started talking about post-graduation and marriage and what that looked like. And she asked me a question that no one had ever asked me before. It came up that I had some student loans and she was confused because she knew I was on scholarship, but I explained that, that's how I paid for our dates and that's how I afforded to buy her flowers and stuff like that. But in this conversation, she looked at me and she asked me a very simple question that no one had ever asked me before. And I don't know if anyone's ever asked you. She looked at me and said, "Do you have a plan for your money?" And that day I didn't. I was about $22,000 in student loan debt. I had no clue what was going on with myself financially, but I did know that I was about to graduate and life gets real after graduation. And I knew that I had to pay back those student loans. After she asked me that, I spent some time, I figured out a plan, started learning stuff about personal finance, how to pay off debt, why I should save money, eventually how to invest and how to buy cars and houses. And I'm very grateful for that moment in my life because before that, I didn't know anything about money. I grew up in a house where we didn't talk much about money. And I always just told myself that I wasn't good with money. And my account would always run down to $10, $15. And I'd call my mom and ask for some money and she'd send me $100. And then I'd wait for my next student loan check or my next scholarship refund. And that's kind of how my life was financially in college. But now I'm a financial coach and I help people every week. A lot of student athletes, even some non-athletes, young, old, rich, poor, everyone, people from all around the country. And my job is to help them create a plan for their money. Because just like me in college, most people don't have a plan for their money and I help them make one. So I know from my own life, but also from helping others that don't have plans for their money, that not having a plan for your money leads to some really scary things. It leads to stress. 73% of Americans say that money is the most stressful thing in their life. More stressful than work, relationships, religion, politics, family, school, work. The most stressful thing for people in our country is money. And that's because most people don't have a plan for their money. It also leads to doubt, and doubt showed up in my own life when I started getting control of my money. Doubt crept in and was like, "You've never been good with money. You don't know anything about money." And I had to fight that and tell myself, no, that is a lie. I can be good with money. But a lot of people that don't have a plan for their money also struggle with doubt that they can be financially successful. And more than anything, it just leads to a really hard life where you have to make tough decisions. A lot of people that I meet have really difficult decisions they have to make because they don't have a plan for their money. And so their life is a little bit more difficult. The good news is winning with money, although a long process, it's really easy to get started. And you can do that today. I'm going to take you through 3 simple steps to start winning with money that you can actually implement in your own life today as you're listening to this episode. Step 1, you have to check your stats. I'm talking about financial stats. Now with sports, a lot of people can rattle off tons of stats about themselves or their favorite athlete, but most people don't know 3 simple stats about their finances. Those stats are your income, your expenses, and your debt. That's how much money you make, how much you spend, and how much you owe other people. And so that's step 1, is to check your stats and actually know how much money is coming in, how much is going out, and how much you've agreed to pay back to other people. Step 2, you actually have to create your plan. Now, emphasis on the word your, because your plan is not my plan. And it's not your mom's plan, not your brother's plan, not your sister's plan. Your plan is specific to your life and also specific to your current season of life. So if you're a senior in college, your plan might be different than when you were a freshman. If you just graduated, obviously your plan is going to be a lot different than when you were in college. There's only a few things you can do with money. So in this plan, you decide how much you want to spend, save, and give. And we would include investing under savings, but those are really the only three things you can do with money. Most people make money and spend all of it. We want to become student athletes that make money, plan how much we're going to spend, set aside some to save, and I would encourage you also to give some money regularly. When you create your plan, you need to start with minimum expenses. Now, I'm not the guy to tell you to never have fun with money. I want you to have fun with money. I want you to enjoy the money that you have. But when we create our plan, we need to start with the minimum expenses. So it doesn't include drinks with your friends. That doesn't include Topgolf. That doesn't include spring break vacations. We're only talking about minimum necessary expenses like food, rent, gas, groceries, medical stuff. I mean, that's about it, right? Most things that people spend money on are not necessary. And so when we start creating our plan, we're going to start with the minimum necessary expenses. And then we can expand from there and we can decide how much we want to spend of that, if we're going to save some and if we're going to give some. In your plan, you should have a short-term and a long-term goal, at least one of each. And I always say that goals influence plans. Real life example from my wife and I, we just booked a trip to Greece. We don't just have that kind of money to go to Greece whenever we want. We have to plan for these things. So our goal, go to Greece, influenced our plan for the last year and a half. We've been saving money every single month, a couple $100s per month into an account specifically for taking a trip to Greece. And now we've saved up enough money. And so then we booked the trip. And so that's how our goal influenced our plan. If you don't let your goals actually influence your plan, it's really just a wish. And that's probably one of the reasons why you're not making the progress you want financially. We should have a short-term goal and a long-term goal. Short-term, think save $1,000, save $5,000, pay off a credit card, something you can do in the next couple of years. A long-term goal, think retirement. Think, do you want to pay for your kids' college someday? Do you want to retire with $1 million, $5 million, $10 million? Do you want to work until you're 75 or do you want to be able to retire at 60? And both of these short-term and long-term goals will influence the kind of things that we plan for our money every single month. Step one, we had check your stats, your financial stats, your income, expenses, and debt. Step two is actually create your plan, a customized plan for your money. Step three, the most important, you actually have to commit to your plan. A lot of people are good at creating plans. Not many people are good at actually committing to the plan. But you, as a successful student athlete, have it inside of you to actually commit to plans and see them through. And that's why you're as successful as you are. In my own life, one of the plans I struggle with is nutrition. I have a really good plan for diet and exercise and protein and macros and all this stuff. But as soon as you put a donut in front of my face, all bets are off. I'm going to say yes, because I have a plan of what I know I should eat, but I'm really not that committed to that plan because I would rather have the donut. So we have check your stats, create your plan, and then commit to your plan. Now let's zoom in on step two, creating your plan of what a financial plan might actually look like. This is a plan that you can create every semester or every month, depending on what your financial situation looks like and how often you make money and how often you pay for things. Now, in this example, which I know isn't exactly your life, but go with me on the example and figure out how you can apply this to your specific situation based on how much you make and how much you spend. This example, we're going to say income is $2,000 and then minimum expenses is going to be a total of $1,500. That includes $700 for rent, $100 for gas, $300 for food, $200 paying off debt. That might be a credit card or car payment or something. And then $200 of other expenses. I don't know your life, but let's assume there are some other things you have thrown in there at $200 a month. Now, we'll take our income, $2,000, minus expenses, $1,500. That gives us what I would call excess. Now, this excess, you get to decide what you want to do with the excess. Once you identify your true minimum monthly expenses, most people will find a little bit of excess. If you find that your income is less than your expenses, then you need to figure out a way to either make more money or spend less money. That's not the point of this episode, but the goal would be that you can make more than you spend. Using this example, having $500 left over of excess, you get to decide what to do with this money. And again, only three things you could do. You could save it, you could spend it, or you could give it. If this was me and I was in college and actually paying attention to my finances, I might do this. Depending on what kind of debt it is, I might pay off extra to that debt. I would save $100 per month, building up an emergency fund. Lifestyle spending, I'd give myself $100 to have fun, but I would track how much I'm spending and not overspend that. And then giving, I would give away about $100 of that. Now, again, this is just my life and what I would do, but imagine in your own situation, what is your income on a monthly basis? What are your expenses that are required? And then how much excess is left over and what could you do with that money? Now, before moving on, I should say, I'm using the example of $2,000 a month, and that might look like $2,000 a month for you. It also might look like a $8,000 scholarship or student loan check at the beginning of a semester that you have to make last throughout the semester. And that's the math that I never did. I never sat down and said, how much is my scholarship refund check at the beginning of the semester and how long does it need to last me? If I did that math, I probably wouldn't have needed student loans, but I never did that math. And so I spent all the money within the first 2 or 3 months of the semester. Then I had to go borrow money at the end of most semesters. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, take a screenshot of what's on your screen right now. This is a great place to start for identifying what should go in my plan or what might need to go in my plan. If you're just listening to this, I'll read them off to you. We have 3 categories: save, spend, and give. Under saving, we have emergency fund, travel fund, car fund, house fund, retirement savings, which would be investing, expensive items. Under spending, you have rent, gas, food, tuition, entertainment, paying off debt. I mean, there's a lot you could spend money on. And then under giving, some ideas would be charity, church, family, friends, nonprofits, blessing strangers, things like that. This is a great place to start to identify, do I need to spend, save, or give on these different categories? And how much of each of those am I actually going to do? A few things to focus on here. First is saving. Now, next episode will be all about saving, so I'm going to skip over this for now. But all I'll say is that you need an emergency fund. Pile of money in the bank for when something goes wrong in your life. Money's not going to fix your problems, but it's a lot easier to solve problems when you have a pile of money ready for when something goes wrong. Let's talk about giving. I think giving is one of the most fun things you can do with your money. My wife and I, we love giving money. We give money every single month to our church. We give money to UTSA athletics. We very intentionally are the people that buy birthday gifts and baby shower gifts and wedding gifts. We just believe that our money is not just for us. Our money is to bless the people around us. For her and I, that's a biblical thing. We believe that our money belongs to God anyways, and we're just managing it well for him. So everything that we do financially, whether it's giving, spending, or saving, it's within the lens of, would God approve of this purchase? Would God want us to give this money here? If that resonates with you, that's awesome. I would challenge you to be someone that gives money if you are a Christian. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's also science. There's something like 90 or 95% of people that regularly give money say that that is a big reason why they are successful financially. Now, the math doesn't work out on this, but it's not a math thing. It's a heart thing. It's a mind thing. It changes the way that you view money, changes the way that you either hold or give your money. It changes the way you treat money. And most people that give regularly, and I'm one of them, can attest to giving money has changed their life financially. So we talked a little about saving, talked about giving. Now, the last thing that could go in your plan is spending. All we're going to say about spending is that you are in charge of your spending, not Amazon Prime Day, not your friends, not your parents. No one else gets to tell you what you need to spend your money on. When I was in college, my friends, they weren't malicious about it. They didn't intend to do this, but I let my friends be in charge of my money, because if my friends were going to do something, even if I didn't have much money or if I didn't have any money saved, I was going to do what they were doing. I allowed other people to dictate what happened with my money because I didn't have a plan myself. But you are in charge of your spending. When you spend money, there are a few ways to do it. Obviously, cash, you hand over money, you get a product. A debit card is basically cash, but electronic. So you swipe it and money comes out of your account automatically. Now, with a credit card, when you swipe your card, you don't pay anything. Visa, MasterCard, Capital One, someone else has paid for what you got and you've agreed to pay them back. There's a few ways you can pay them back. We're not going to dive into it on this episode, but we will do a future episode on paying back credit cards and what happens when you pay it in full versus making minimum monthly payments, and how interest affects you if you choose to pay it off in the minimum monthly payment way. But all we're going to say for now is not having credit card debt is a good thing. And if you have credit card debt, part of your plan every month should be to make extra payments towards your credit card, not just the minimum, to get out of your credit card debt as soon as you can. All right, so to wrap up, step 1, check your stats, your income, your expenses, and your debt. It is your responsibility to know these 3 things. Step 2, create your plan. Customize just for you. Start with your minimum expenses. What do I actually have to spend? And then with any excess, decide, do I want to spend more? Do I want to save? And do I want to give? And that's your decision on what you want to do. And then step 3, the most important, is to actually commit to the plan. I promise you, if you commit to a financial plan, you will see success. It might be bumpy at the beginning because if you've never planned your money like I never had in college, then when you start figuring it out, it's kind of a shock. For me personally, it was unbelievable to see how much money I'd been wasting on Chick-fil-A and Topgolf and random online shopping for things I didn't really need. And so it might be an eye-opening experience for you. Don't let that stop you. Stay committed to the plan, see it through, constantly adapt. Don't be scared of failure, and you will make progress financially if you follow these 3 simple steps. Check your stats, create your plan, and then commit to the plan. You might be asking yourself, okay, I've done the 3 steps, but now where do I actually track all of this? In the Locker Room Finance app. It's free to use. Anyone can download it. It'll very simply let you put in income and expenses and then connect to your bank account to automatically track your money for you. If you spend money at Chick-fil-A, it knows that that's a restaurant and it'll go to your restaurant line item. We'll do an episode in the future about exactly how to use the Locker Room Finance app. There are lots of other apps out there. If you already have one that works for you, keep doing that. If you're a spreadsheet kind of person and that works for you, keep doing that. Whatever works for you, that's what I want you to do. But if you don't have anything, you've never tried creating a plan for your money, and this is your first time, download Locker Room Finance app, give it a shot, and it will help you become more aware of how much you're spending every single month. Now, there's a whole lot more that you need to know about money, but this is a great place to start. In the future, I'll release episodes about every aspect of personal finance that you need to know about as a student athlete. Next episode, we're going to dive into savings, building an emergency fund, what I would call a post-graduation transition fund, and we'll talk all about that in the next episode. With this podcast, we are building a team of student athletes around the country that have decided to take control of their money and not just learn financial knowledge, but actually take action and implement the things that they learn on this podcast in their own life. So you, as someone listening to this podcast, you are on Team Locker Room Finance, Team LRF, and your job now is to implement these steps we've talked about and see financial progress because of it. That's what I want for you, and that is the reason why I'm recording this podcast right now. If you don't know your stats, check them today. If you've never created a plan for your money, create one today. Just grab a sheet of paper, list your minimum expenses, and then figure out how much excess you have. And if you've never committed to a financial plan for yourself, today is the day that you decide you're going to do that. This podcast is for you. This podcast is for every student athlete in the country to start winning with money. So let me know what you want to hear about. I have plans to talk about credit and student loans and crypto and debt and everything like that. But if there's anything specific that you want me to talk about in the LRF podcast, find me on Instagram, leave a comment here on Spotify, and just let me know. I want to thank you for listening to Locker Room Finance Podcast. I'll see you in the next episode where we talk about building an emergency fund and creating a post-graduation transition fund.